Hello, everyone. Her name is Zhu Jiu, and her grandmother is the most important person to her in this world. Her grandmother has fallen ill with liver cancer, and the best treatment is a liver transplant. Zhu Jiu feels helpless. As she eats the small wontons her grandmother made, tears stream down her face. She doesn't know what to do. Zhu Jiu was born into a happy family, where her parents loved each other deeply. As memories slowly resurface, her breathing becomes uneasy. Zhu Jiu's parents were doctors in Naoto village. They saved a general of the government army, but in the end, were killed by mercenaries of the rebel army. Zhu Jiu was jolted awake by gunshots in her sleep. Her father drove far away to distract the enemies, sacrificing himself to save her. Zhu Jiu was hiding in a wooden barrel, counting 23, 24, 25. Suddenly, she was startled awake from her sleep. Years later, she became a doctor. Zhu Jiu was entrusted by Hans, a former colleague of her parents, to conduct basic research on a sudden and unknown immune system disease. Due to the unstable situation at the border where she had to go, Hans arranged for a friend to accompany her. That friend was Fu Yunqian, the second young master of Ling Tian Pharmaceuticals and also a researcher. His purpose there was to find a medicinal plant. Zhu Jiu and Fu Yunqian were like fire and water, constantly at odds. At 5:30 in the morning, they hit the road, already bickering. Halfway through, the car broke down. Assistant Shenlu contacted a tow truck, leaving Zhu Jiu and Fu Yunqian to continue on the road together. They waited by the roadside for a long time and eventually managed to hitch a ride in a truck carrying chickens. Upon reaching their destination, Naoto village, the villagers peeked out, curiously observing the two outsiders. Zhu Jiu introduced Fu Yunqian to various places around the village. Fu Yunqian, intrigued, asked if she had been there before, to which Zhu Jiu replied no. While Zhu Jiu was tending to a sick child, a sudden power outage plunged the surroundings into darkness, triggering memories from her childhood. The sick child was frightened, but at that moment, Fu Yunqian entered with a flashlight. Seeing Zhu Jiu's serious expression, he seemed to have a change of opinion about her. The generator was too old, leading to frequent power outages in the village. At night, the village became lively and bustling. Fu Yunqian brought a new generator to the village, making everyone very happy. Suddenly, gunfire erupted, and people started running. In that instant, Zhu Jiu recalled a childhood memory of her father hiding her in a wooden barrel during a raid. A group of armed militants had come to the village to seize supplies, and the newly lit lamps were shot out. They drove towards the mountains, but they were stopped by soldiers along the way. An armed man demanded that Zhu Jiu get out of the car and searched her. Fu Yunqian stepped forward, placing himself between Zhu Jiu and the armed man. The militant grew angry, and the atmosphere was tense. But luckily, a whistle was heard in the distance, signaling them to let the group pass. On the way up the mountain, Zhu Jiu appeared exhausted. Fu Yunqian noticed two leeches on her leg. Using mugwort, he carefully removed them. Watching Fu Yunqian's focused expression, Zhu Jiu couldn't help but feel stirred. Later that night, Zhu Jiu had an acute allergic reaction to the leech's saliva. She rambled on to Fu Yunqian, thinking they were her last words. The person she was most worried about was her grandmother, and she began to cry. Fu Yunqian searched the area for herbs, brewed them, and applied the concoction to Zhu Jiu's wounds. He stayed up all night, watching over her and never getting a moment of rest. On their way up the mountain, Zhu Jiu and Fu Yunqian supported each other, closely following in center. However, thick fog covered the mountain, and the path was treacherous, causing them to lose track of. Senator Fu Yunqian tied one end of a yellow ribbon to Zhu Jiu's hand and the other end to his wrist, and they continued together. By the cliffside, Fu Yunqian spotted Petu and excitedly called Zhu Jiu over. In a moment of carelessness, both Zhu Jiu and Fu Yunqian slipped into a cave. Fu Yunqian pulled out a cotton swab to disinfect Zhu Jiu's wound, gently blowing on it, causing Zhu Jiu to shy away from the sensation. After a while, Zhu Jiu anxiously took out a photo of her parents, worried it might have been damaged. She then shared her childhood story with Fu Yunqian. Her mother had been shot by anti-government mercenaries, and her father had drawn the enemies away to a faraway place to protect her. Zhu Jiu had survived by hiding in a wooden barrel. She missed them deeply. Feeling her sorrow, Fu Yunqian let Zhu Jiu lean on his shoulder. He comforted her by saying that the two bright stars in the sky were her parents, watching over her in the night. He even drew a star-shaped watch on her hand, which deeply moved Zhu Jiu. She took out a piece of milk candy and tried to split it to share with Fu Yunqian, but struggled. Fu Yunqian simply popped the candy into Zhu Jiu's mouth, then suddenly kissed her. They immediately pulled apart, staring at each other in disbelief, and quickly looked away. Upon hearing the news, Fu Yunqian's brother immediately rushed to the destination to join the rescue effort. Heavy rain poured down as the rescue team loudly called out Fu Yunqian and Zhu Jiu's names. Inside the cave, Zhu Jiu and Fu Yunqian grew increasingly weak, and Zhu Jiu was on the verge of passing out. Fu Yunqian tried to keep her awake by telling jokes. At that moment, The shouts from outside gave Fu Yunshan a glimmer of hope. Zhu Jiu mumbled, asking Fu Yunshan not to leave her. Though weak himself, Fu Yunshan struggled to stand and call for help, but eventually collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Slowly, the cave entrance was widened, and Fu Yunshan barely managed to open his eyes, weakly calling Zhu Jiu's name before passing out again. When Fu Yunshan regained consciousness, the first thing he did was check on Zhu Jiu. Having survived such a harrowing experience together, their bond had deepened significantly. Hans told Zhu Jiu that the pedu they found was highly effective against the virus, but unfortunately, the quantity was too limited to meet both his and Fu Yunshan's needs. Zhu Jiu approached Fu Yunshan, explained the situation, and asked him to give the pedu to Hans to treat the sick children. Fu Yunshan looked at Zhu Jiu and rejected her request, but said he would fund the treatment of the sick children. Zhu Jiu was deeply disappointed in Fu Yunshan. She grabbed his hand again, pleading with him once more. Fu Yunshan remained silent, disappointed. Zhu Jiu let go of his hand and left. Fu Yunshan was deeply conflicted. On one hand, the children needed treatment, but on the other, the company's project couldn't be delayed. He asked Fu Shizhou to allocate some pedu to treat the sick children. Fu Shizhou analyzed the company's situation for him. Fu Yunshan decided to pause the mining rights project for now, and Fu Shizhou agreed to his request. The rain was falling steadily, and Zhu Jiu's mood was extremely heavy. As Fu Yunshan listened to Zhu Jiu blame herself, he comforted her, saying that doctors aren't omnipotent. He gently lifted Zhu Jiu's face and wiped away her tears, expressing that he also wished he could do more to help the sick child. Just then, Fu Yunshan received news that his mother had been hospitalized. He stood outside the operating room, reluctantly waving goodbye to Zhu Jiu's figure. After finishing the surgery, Zhu Jiu ran out and caught up with Fu Yunshan before he left. She placed their matching couple bracelet on his wrist, and the two embraced tightly. Meanwhile, Fu Shizhou received a call informing him that his mother's mental health had deteriorated further. Fu Shizhou and Fu Yunshan were half-brothers. Their grandfather had forced Fu Shizhou's parents to divorce and had Fu Yunshan's mother marry into the family. Later, Fu Shizhou's mother developed depression, but their grandfather sent her to a mental institution. Seeing his mother in a state of mental confusion, Fu Shizhou couldn't help but feel a surge of hatred. He picked up a photo from the table and remembered the times they spent together. After hesitating for a moment, he stuffed the photo into the drawer. Back at the company, Fu Yunshan tried hard to convince the board to accept a new project, but he hit walls everywhere. No one paid him any attention. Fu Shizhou observed everything from the sidelines. Fu Yunshan projected a picture of the sick child onto the company lobby screen, so that everyone coming to work could see it. However, the board members had all been invited by Fu Shizhou to play golf, and not a single one attended Fu Yunshan's meeting. Zhou Jiu came and offered to help by persuading her father on Fu Yunshan's behalf, but Fu Yunshan refused. He didn't want to use his feelings as a bargaining chip. He told Zhou Jiu that he already had someone he loved. Fu Shizhou was about to get engaged to Gu Wanwan. Fu Yunshan questioned him on why he hadn't been informed. Fu Shizhou's response was dismissive, saying it was simply because he had reached the age where he should get married. Jiang Shuning, however, preferred Zhou Jiu as a daughter-in-law, hoping to leverage the Zhou family's influence to counter Fu Shizhou and seize control of the company. But Fu Yunshan had no interest in these power struggles. Thinking about all the misfortunes, Jiang Shuning was filled with bitterness and shed tears in pain. She handed the invitation to Fu Shizhou's mother and cruelly told her that the man she loved had long been dead. This caused her to suffer a mental breakdown. On the day of the engagement, Fu Yunshan once again pleaded with Fu Shizhou to reconsider, promising that he wouldn't compete for control of the company. Fu Shizhou mocked him, asking what he had to compete with him. Fu Yunshan couldn't understand why Fu Shizhou had become so cold. He missed their childhood together. Fu Shizhou was using Gu Wanwan to achieve his own goals, and the two brothers were growing further apart. Fu Yunshan was heartbroken, unable to comprehend the drastic changes in Fu Shizhou. One day, Fu Shizhou's mother, in a dazed state, crossed the street alone. A speeding truck swerved to avoid her but crashed into Fu Yunshan's car. Several steel rods from a construction site pierced Fu Yunshan's car, leaving him unconscious. Despite the truck driver's efforts, it still hit Fu Shizhou's mother. By the time Fu Shizhou arrived at the hospital, his mother had already passed away. He cried out in anguish, and with each tear, his hatred deepened. Zhu Jiu had been trying to reach Fu Yunshan, sensing that something was wrong. Eventually, the call was answered, but it was Zhou Jiu on the other end. Zhu Jiu asked to speak to Fu Yunshan, but Zhou Jiu, looking at Fu Yunshan in the ICU, said it wasn't possible. From that moment on, Fu Yunshan and Zhu Jiu lost contact. Zhu Jiu believed that Fu Yunshan had broken up with her on his own. Time passed, and 2 years later, Zhu Jiu seemed to have moved on from her heartbreak. Her colleague, Leo, asked her to become the family doctor for one of his distant relatives. The housekeeper, Linda, briefed Zhu Jiu on some household matters and let her go upstairs to meet the gentleman of the house. Zhu Jiu knocked and greeted him as she entered the room, but found it completely dark. Apologizing, she took a step forward and suddenly realized the person in the corner was Fu Yunqian. Fu Yunqian hesitated for a moment, then looked up at her and told her to leave. When he first heard Zhu Jiu's voice, he was filled with surprise, then anxiety. When she turned and looked at him, Fu Yunqian's gaze wavered but then became resolute. After more than 2 years apart, Zhu Jiu crouched in front of Fu Yunqian and asked what had happened to his legs. Fu Yunqian forcefully slapped his thigh, yelling at her to leave. He had endured countless painful days over the past 2 years. The car accident had caused spinal nerve damage, leaving his lower body paralyzed. Zhu Jiu drank heavily at a bar. Late at night, Linda called Zhu Jiu, asking her to come over and check on Fu Yunqian. Zhu Jiu wiped his sweat and heard him calling her name in his sleep. She prepared some things and returned to Fu Yunqian's house to take care of him. Fu Yunqian made things difficult for her in every possible way, but Zhu Jiu patiently fulfilled his requests. He was doing everything he could to make her leave. Zhu Jiu pleaded with Fu Yunqian not to push her away, but Fu Yunqian coldly said that he didn't need her pity. Zhu Jiu comforted herself, then gathered her strength again. Jislan recommended a doctor to her. Zhu Jiu consulted a specialist with Fu Yunqian's medical records. The experts suggested considering an olfactory and sheathing cell transplantation surgery. Zhu Jiu took the information to Fu Yunqian's house, only to see Wu Tong coming downstairs, looking uneasy. Rushing upstairs, she found Fu Yunqian struggling to move, attempting to stand up. He didn't want Zhu Jiu to see him in such a miserable state, and he yelled at her to leave. Fu Yunqian pounded his unresponsive legs in frustration. Despite his efforts in rehabilitation, the results were minimal. He had fallen time and again, each time bringing more disappointment, leaving him both desperate and helpless. In the dark room, tears of pain rolled down his face. He drank to numb himself. Zhu Jiu confronted him, asking if he had lost his mind. Fu Yunqian snapped back, saying she had no right to control him. Zhu Jiu grabbed the glass and started drinking, one glass after another. Drunk and acting recklessly, Zhu Jiu pulled back Fu Yunqian's blanket, climbed on top of him, gave him a quick kiss, and then fell asleep on his chest. Unconsciously, Fu Yunqian let out a small smile. Zhu Jiu cooked noodles and even made a bowl for Wu Tong, but Wu Tong refused to eat. Zhu Jiu held a bowl and playfully waved 2 eggs over Fu Yunqian's head, saying some auspicious words. Then, she cracked the eggs on Fu Yunqian's head, and surprisingly, he didn't get angry. He caught the egg that Zhu Jiu handed him. As he ate the egg, Fu Yunqian couldn't help but laugh. Zhou Jiji arrived at Fu Yunqian's house. She told Zhu Jiu that she didn't need to come tomorrow because she would be Fu Yunqian's family doctor. Zhou Jiji threw the couple's bracelet into the trash, and Zhu Jiu happened to see it. Zhou Jiji told her that Fu Yunqian was the one who asked her to throw it away. Zhu Jiu tossed the bracelet toward Fu Yunqian and angrily asked him what he meant by this. Fu Yunqian coldly replied that it was exactly what she thought it was. Heartbroken, Zhu Jiu packed her things and left. Zhu Jiu was walking alone down the street when suddenly, a man blocked her way, claiming to be a former patient. He said his friend was injured and needed immediate medical attention. The man led Zhu Jiu to a secluded alley, and that's when she realized something was wrong. She tried to escape, but the man grabbed her and pinned her to the ground, attempting to assault her. Zhu Jiu, barely conscious from the blows, managed to pick up a bottle nearby and smash it over the man's head. Zhu Jiu was taken to the police station, accused of intentional injury, and was asked to contact a lawyer. She called 2 friends, but neither picked up. Feeling utterly helpless, Zhu Jiu received a call from Linda, asking if she could come back to take care of Fu Yunqian. Zhu Jiu told Linda about her situation, and Linda immediately informed Fu Yunqian. For over 2 years, Fu Yunqian hadn't left his home, not even opening his curtains. But this time, for Zhu Jiu's sake, he decided to go out. He searched the area where Zhu Jiu had been attacked, and after a while, he found a hidden camera in a secluded corner. Meanwhile, Zhu Jiu paced anxiously in the police station, waiting. After a long night, a lawyer finally arrived, saying he had been sent by Fu Yunqian. Upon hearing that Fu Yunqian had gone out, Zhu Jiu was overjoyed. She ran towards Fu Yunqian's car, believing that if he had left his home for her, it meant she held a special place in his heart. But Fu Yunqian, stubborn as ever, shut the car window and ordered the driver to leave. Zhu Jiu was left standing alone in the snow, crying. Zhou Jiji found Zhu Jiu and told her that when Fu Yunqian had heard about her trouble, he was so worried that he fell down the stairs in a rush to help. At that moment, Zhou Jiji realized that the woman in Fu Yunqian's heart was Zhu Jiu. Zhou Jiji urged Zhu Jiu to help Fu Yunqian. After learning everything, Zhu Jiu ran to Fu Yunqian's house. She pulled open the curtains, then turned to look at him for a long moment before decisively kissing him. It was a long, passionate kiss, and with it, they resolved the emotional knots between them. Both Fu Yunqian and Zhu Jiu were happy again, having healed their hearts. Fu Yunshan told Zhu Jiu he had decided to undergo surgery. Will Fu Yunshan be able to walk again?